And if we look to close out on insurance, will, beneficiary updates, etc., like, is there much you're really looking at changing around the protection side of things if you get a pay rise? Is there much you really need to focus on there?
If you have not reviewed this stuff in a long time, then yes, it's all your personal insurance, so your income protection, how much you've got, waiting periods, all that stuff, which we've spoken about at length in another podcast. Your life insurance, total and permanent disability. When you're calculating how much of that cover you need, a component is how much are you earning, because you're wanting to replace income if something happens. If the pay rises come about because you got a new job, sometimes the company will offer you insurance as well as part of the deal.
Yeah, no, really good point. Like that one on some big companies, again, will give you some insurance benefits and things as well. So if you've got your own personal insurances and things set up, like we see it often, you might offset the insurance that your employer is now covering and paying for you against what you need to sort of self-insure for. So you sort of lower your own personal cost of insurance because your employer isn't taking some of the burden on. And yeah, really looking at income protection, because you had a pay rise. Income protection generally covers 70% of your income, so you might need to look at increasing that up. Some insurers allow you to increase a portion of it without going through a full assessment again. They can go up 10 or 15%. I've done that plenty of times, but some insurers don't have that benefit, or if it's a large pay rise, you have to reapply and go through underwriting again, which is Welcome back to the Winners Playbook. Josh here with Billy. Big change at work, new role, higher pay, or move to a new company. Today we'll show you how to bank the gain and avoid lifestyle creep. So we've got a few things we're going to be unpacking on today's episode, but before we do it, Billy, what's happening on your and May today? We're just as busy as each other. Any news for the week?
Well, this morning, Faye, our wonderful business partner and awesome advisor in our business, he runs our advisor academy. We were training our new advisors, and he brought me in to run a session this morning,
Nice.
which was fun. So I was taking the team through, we call them clarity calls, right? That's when someone might be interested in financial advice and they come to our website or they click through from our social media pages and they want to have a phone call with an advisor. There's a bit of structure you need to that, because as we've all experienced before, some people, when they call in, they don't really know what the 15-minute call is. And so some people think, I'll just talk to this advisor for half an hour and off I go. But really the purpose is to see if you want to have an advisor at all. So I was just taking the team through how to handle those. And then the other topic was running that first client meeting and how to make it a really nice experience for the advisor and the client.
Yeah.
And bring in some personal stuff and not just making it all, no one just wants to talk about tax and investments and all the technical stuff. So yeah, that was good. That was a good session. How about you? What have you been up to?
Sounds like a masterclass, that one. I missed that on the Billy masterclass. Yeah, no, it's crucial, those initial touch points with clients, of course, and setting the expectations so everyone knows, roles and has clarity on that. Because if you don't do it, I think that's where problems can sort of come down the line and expectations aren't met, or it just, problems generally come if that's not done up front. So I'm sure that was good. I got back late last night from Tassie. I was down in our Tassie office for a couple of days there, Wednesday and Thursday, which was good. So we've got a new advisor down there in the Tassie team. So in Moona, if anyone knows Tasmania or is listening from Tasmania, would know where Moona is, but it's it'd be 20 minutes from central CBD. It's all pretty close. And just going through some stuff with the advisors down there. Team's growing. We're going to have to do a little fit out in that office at some point, because it's a pretty old building that we're sitting in. But the office has been there for about 15 years. So they actually get a lot of foot traffic coming through and clients coming, which is interesting. You don't see that too often, but a lot of people just sort of walking around and see the name and the brand and end up coming in for some advice. So really good things happening down there in Tassie, and we're obviously doing a lot of transition at the moment with the business, with CRMs and things like that. So just all in all, lots going on down there. And then off to New Zealand next Thursday. I actually take off there, so I'll do a week with the family for a bit of a personal holiday, or 5 days before all the crew comes in. You guys and all the other advisors head in, and then we've got our licensee conference for a few days, and then I've actually got another conference on the back of that. So I've got 2 weeks straight in New Zealand, never been there, so that should be cool. And then looking forward to a bit more normality and no travel after that, Billy. So once I get back late March, I'm looking just to sort of focus on the business and work and plow through it, because it's been a pretty chaotic Q1, to say the least.
Yeah. So what's going on in New Zealand? Are you going to Hobbiton? Hobbiton?
Oh,
Whatever it's
yeah,
called?
funny you say that. I was a massive fan of Lord of the Rings when I was a kid.
There you go. There you go.
But
It's pretty good.
we're doing it. We're going to do it. The wife not so keen, but we'll make that happen. She hated Lord of the Rings, but no, we'll definitely
Leon
meet on
will
the
be into
Hobson.
it. Leon will be into it, maybe.
He's got to be into it, surely. He's got to be. But no, there'll be some good things to do down there. I think we're just going to be up around Auckland, so we've got a car, so we'll do a bit of traveling around and things. But should be good. I'll definitely have some posts and maybe a video in Hobbiton. We'll see it. We'll see how we go.
Nice.
But jumping into the topic, so the first point of, moving job, new company, higher pay, new role, whatever it may be, if we're talking sort of day one and, what should you focus on with regards to your new pay? You come in, you've gone up 10, 20, 50, 100 grand, whatever it may be. How would you go about cash flow, automation, and just rejigging what's happened there?
Well, the main thing is taking action, because if you do nothing, you will just experience lifestyle creep for most people.
Yeah.
So you need to have a cash flow structure in place beforehand, right? Otherwise, it just sweet, I've got a pay rise, and then you'll naturally start spending more for most people. So you need to already have a plan in place. And so if you know a pay rise is coming, then you're just updating your plan. I mean, that's the main thing. And that's
Yep.
what most people don't do. In terms of how to do that, it comes back to the basic cash flow structure, right? Just divvying that up. How much of this extra money that's coming in am I going to spend? How much am I going to save? How much to invest? Am I going to use it to reduce debt, etc.? So it's just going through that process. What are your thoughts there?
I agree with all of that. And a point I stumbled upon the other day was this idea on focusing more on saving instead of earning more, which I partially agree with. But I want to explain that 'cause it's kind of relevant to this with, you get a new job or you increase your pay up, but let's just assume you're in the highest tax bracket. So you're over 190 and say you're earning, 200 now, and you go to 250 and you're like, wow, that's great, an extra $50,000, but you're only going to keep half of that because you're in the highest tax bracket. So you keep
I've actually pre-prepared some numbers on that.
Oh, here we go.
So that point, so we're on the same page here. So I'll just run through that quickly if you like.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is someone who's on a salary package of $220,000, including super.
Yep.
They get a 10% pay rise, which is $22,000.
Yep.
Of that 22 grand, 2,300 will go into super, so that's locked up. 9,233 goes to the tax office. You're left with $10,400 or $200 a week. So 22 grand pay rise, you're actually only going to see 10 grand of that, less than half.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing to think about.
Yeah, it's brutal at the high end. And the point to add to it as well is exactly that. You think about it and you get a 20K pay rise, you basically keep half of it. But the point is around the focusing more on your savings, because if you say free up 5 grand because you review your insurances, health insurance, whatever it is, you look at some bills, you make some adjustments to your lifestyle, could you possibly free up 10 grand? And if you look at that, if a dollar you save, you're saving the whole dollar. If you can cut out some expense, you're saving the whole dollar. Whereas if you earn another dollar over the highest tax bracket, you're only keeping half. You get what I mean? So to get to that same equivalent, you cut out $10,000 of expenses. You've got your 10,000 better off, as opposed to the earning of the 20, and then you're still left with the 10. So I think it's a good concept to think about. The part to that is I wouldn't live my life by that, though, of course, because there's a flaw to your expenses that you can cut. You can't just keep cutting out and then living off less and living off less. Like, there are people out there in the FIRE movement that might argue they might differ with that sort of idea, but I still think at some point, once you get your expenses under control, then you have to turn the tap up with your income. You just got to keep turning it up if you want to get ahead, but then balancing that lifestyle creep element, because you get the pay rise, you're like, yeah, we got 20, 30K extra, but then the expenses go up at the exact same rate, and then you obviously never feel like you're getting ahead, which is not ideal. But I think you were just sort of touching on that just before, Billy, is around the setting tax aside, super top ups and debt reduction. So say you get that pay rise, how would you go about determining, what you do with that money and how you divvy it up?
Yeah, most people, like, when we talk to clients about that, if they have a lump sum of money come in or a pay rise, they're usually thinking, "I'll do one thing with that." But we always say, "No, don't put all that money into one thing generally." Like, you wanna split it up. You always wanna split it up because you wanna build up savings, you want to invest, and often you want to reduce debt. So there's a few different options you've got, and you may want to put more in super as well, which comes back to the tax conversation. That's the best thing you can do from a tax perspective. So ideally, you're divvying it up into all of those different things. So on the example of the person who got the $22,000 pay rise, which is actually only 10 grand, an example there would be in that tax bracket, putting a bit extra into super saves them a ton of tax. Then you might have a third that goes into just extra spending. And you may just have to, even just because of inflation, right? Like, you get a pay rise, well, some of it needs to be spent because costs keep going up anyway, regardless of your budget. So you might have a third into saving, a third into spending, and the rest into wealth creation, which would be investing.
Yeah, and there's no, I think, set formula or best way to do that. Just
No.
like we always say, it comes down to your goals. Really, it's boring, but it's true.
Of course. And the salary sacrifice into super is like, you don't even have to think about it because you'll never see that money
Yeah.
sent off into super before you get paid, and it's pre-tax.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
easy to do that one. The other components you got to manage as part of your cash flow structure.
Yeah, and what I reckon is worth pointing out, I've seen with quite a few clients is when they jump over to a new job and company, and sometimes those company have different incentive plans. And what I mean by that is share plans, give you some stock options. Like, it's pretty common if you're working for a big sort of listed company, or tech companies are notorious for it. And I couldn't tell you how many clients I've had that have gone. They're like, great. They see all these bonuses and all of these new stock options that they can get. And then they start getting hit with these tax bills and they don't know how to deal with it. So if it's only relevant if you're getting those types of incentives, but sometimes they sound really good, particularly the one around what they call RSUs, restricted stock units or options. And essentially how it works is what the company does is they get you over and they want to lock you in. So they say, hey, we're going to give you X amount of shares and stock every sort of year that you stay with us. Or sometimes every quarter I have clients getting new shares and issued new stock in the company. But then it vests over a certain period of time. So although they get given, say, $50,000 or $100,000 worth of shares in the company, they can't actually access it for maybe a year, 2 or 3 or 4 years, whatever it may be, until it vests. So it's a retention tool is what it is for the company. They want to sort of keep you there, and they do it in good spirit of giving you some stock and equity in the company, which, one, it is a risk because then you are building up a lot of wealth in one individual company, which you generally don't have any sort of say over the performance of it as an individual worker in a massive company. But where I've seen people get caught out is they get all these stock bonuses and things that start coming in. And when they start vesting, even though they're not selling the shares, that's when the taxable point then occurs. So say they have $50,000 of shares or $100,000 of shares that vest, they have access, they can start selling them at that point in time, but a lot of people generally don't because they don't know what to do with them to start. But then that falls part of your taxable income. So that 50 or 100 would go to your taxable income. And then they get to the end of the financial year and they go, just lodge a tax return, might get a bit of money back. There's a whole portion of income that was just given to them that no tax was withheld from. And they're like, hang on, 100,000 shares come through. So that means 47% tax on that if they're in the highest tax bracket. What do you mean I've got a $48,000 or a $40,000 tax bill? So you got to be really careful around that stuff. If you haven't been on that sort of a system for quite some time, I see some clients get in some pretty poor positions around, paying off the ATO, installments, and they're just always behind and they feel like they're just always paying tax. So you really want to relook at your strategy around it if you are getting shares and stock options, because they can look and feel very, very different across different companies, and they sometimes have those different incentive plans. And I've seen quite a few of them that are very, very different. But you want to have a strategy around that because, generally you don't want to build up all this wealth in one individual company. And that's what tends to happen when you work for the business for a while. You accumulate all this wealth in this publicly traded company, and it's a lot of risk. And I've seen, I won't use particulars, but I had a client that was over 500,000 in on this company, told me it was going to keep traveling to the moon, did my advice, and I said, look, let's take some money off the table. Unfortunately, didn't fully listened to what I had said, and it dropped below $100,000 within 6 months. So it's tough to see something like that occur. Billy, I don't know if you've seen some scenarios like that.
I was just going to say, we almost need a whole episode because twice in the last month, 2 different companies, company share schemes, and in both cases, their share price has fallen 50% in the last 12 months. It's to do with the AI related sell-off, like software companies and consultants and so on are being sold off. It's out of control at the moment. But 2 different companies, 2 different individuals worked there for years, built up their company share, their stock. It's lost 50% in the last 12 months. That's the risk because it's tempting to go, they're giving me shares. I'll just build this up into a big asset. But you've got that single company risk where you work for that company and you got shares in that company. If that company doesn't perform well, your job or how much you get paid is at risk, and or your company stock's at risk as well. So it's just something to consider. It's different if you're working for a company and it's growing and everything's going well, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, and it's a lot of
it's not a set and forget. A lot of people set and forget it, right? They just let it build up and don't really think about it. There's a few things to think about.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I've seen a lot of clients I've seen that get those types of incentives. They do have this innate bias, which we're all not immune for, mind you. I think Link and all our entities are great investments, of course. But
unless if you've got company stock in Link, no, just keep it and build it up for everyone else.
Yeah. Well, the private company obviously very different than a publicly traded company, because private companies is smaller. You've got sway in it. You're involved in decisions that can make a meaningful difference, as opposed to a big publicly listed company worth billions of dollars, and you're just you're not much in the broader scheme of things. But yeah, that bias I've seen is a real inherent one, and it's like, hey, the quarterly results coming out, I think they're going to be good ones from everything that I'm seeing, and nearly every time I've seen it's gone the other way. And it's actually, these people have had to change their life and push back buying homes and moving into a new place and all of it. So yeah, you got to be really careful around it, because it can catch you out if you don't have an exact strategy around it. Tax you got to look out for, but there are flow-on effects to other aspects of your life as well. So when you're getting those pay rises, just worthy of taking a broader overall look at what's happening, and maybe seeking some advice at the same time from an advisor and an accountant. But lifestyle. What about lifestyle upgrades, Billy? Are any of them worth it, or should they wait when you get that pay rise?
Yes, obviously depends on your situation. You can say that 1,000 times, but in general, bad things, nice cars, non-tax deductible debt, are obviously something you really need to think about whether it's worthwhile before you take those things on. Expensive holidays and private schools, unless you have planned for that. Right, so you don't go, I've got a pay rise, I can afford the private schools. Like, it needs to be planned out, right? Because it's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And we've seen lots of households where their finances are in terrible shape because they had to get the kids into private school. So those ones are ones to look out for. Ones that can be worth, lifestyle upgrades that can be worth it. Things that allow you to get your time back, like getting a house cleaner. Yep. Childcare or aftercare if you need it to further your career, and then experiences and travel, obviously, to make your life better. And particularly if you're working really hard, you need to spend some time with your partner and with your kids. So It's not just the actual personal experience. It's actually better for your relationships and for your family, so that your whole family benefits from you working hard and earning some pay rises. And can I give you one example of this? I've heard this a few times. A lot of people, some of their earliest memories as young children are the family holidays. So they won't remember the Christmas presents. They won't remember all the shit that you bought them that they demanded. They won't remember the gaming consoles or anything else. But they do remember the travel, because it's in a different location and they get to spend time with you. And a funny example of this is my son. He's 7 now. We went to Bali, and that was actually part of a work trip. We went to Bali. I decided to take the family as well. My kids were 3 and 1, and that did not work out well, because the 1-year-old was just an absolute nightmare on the flights. And then the whole time we're in Bali, he was vomiting and waking up at 4 a.m. and all this. So myself and my wife did not have a good time on that trip. It was one of the worst trips I've ever had. But my 7-year-old is like, I want to go back to Bali. I remember going to Bali. He was only 3, and it was the worst family holiday we've had. And he's like, I want to go back to Bali. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah. No, I think lots to be said in that. Yeah, very much overlooked because you might take that new role when it could, you might lose 15 or 20% of your time, and you might be already running on, not much time, with the family. And even for myself, like I've recently had to hire a gardener with my house because it's like it takes me 2 or 3 hours, probably a fortnight to, if I average it over a year, to keep my place neat and tidy with the grass and, clipping things up and so on. And I was like, look, I think it's now at the tipping point here where I got to get someone in to do this. And it's not actually to use that time, which I could use it to do a bit more work. And don't get me wrong, I definitely will do that from time to time. But it's also at the same stage, so I can actually spend more time with the family. So it's either I'm doing 2 or 3 hours out over the weekend, or we'll take that and we'll go somewhere. So, it's not, the more I, sort of go on, and one thing I've tend to realize is that timing factor and buying more time and how you do that definitely becomes a lot more relevant when you start getting into the higher tax brackets. You got to be, you definitely appreciate and I think monitor your time a lot more closely at that end is what I've found, and something I'm just very hyper focused. And I agree with all of what you've said there, Billy, 100%. And if we look to close out on insurance, will, beneficiary updates, etc. Like, is there much you're really looking at changing around the protection side of things? If you get a pay rise, is there much you really need to focus on there?
If it's a modest, significant pay rise, or if you have not reviewed this stuff in a long time, then yes, it's all your personal insurance, so your income protection, how much you've got, waiting periods, all that stuff, which we've spoken about at length in another podcast. Your life insurance, total and permanent disability, component, like when you're calculating how much of that cover you need, a component is how much are you earning, because you're wanting to replace income if something happens. So the insurances should be looked at. If the pay rises come about because you got a new job, sometimes the company will offer you insurance as well as part of the deal. So you need to look at that. And then all your wills and succession planning, again, that's more so if you haven't looked at it and your circumstances have changed, and pay rise can be part of that. Again,
Really good
it's
point.
another topic, so it depends how long you want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, really good point. Like that one on the some big companies, again, will give you some insurance benefits and things as well. So if you've got your own personal insurances and things set up, like we see it often, you might offset the insurance that your employer is now covering and paying for you against what you need to sort of self-insure for. So you sort of lower your own personal cost of insurance because your employer is then taking some of the burden on. And really looking at income protection, because you had a pay rise. Income protection generally covers 70% of your income. So you might need to look at increasing that up. Some insurers allow you to increase a portion of it without going through a full assessment again. They can go up 10 or 15%. I've done that plenty of times, but some insurers don't have that benefit, or if it's a large pay rise, you have to reapply and go through underwriting again, which is not always nice, but it's just a part of it. But no, I think that's good, Billy. And I think in closing, I think the key message really is just when you get that pay rise, whatever it may be, it's not as simple as just there's an extra amount of money coming in. There's a lot of flow and other effects to consider around your broader lifestyle goals, where you're at. If you're getting a lot of incentives from that business and bonuses that you're not used to, like planning it out, getting an understanding as to what they actually mean, really important, because usually the new employers and companies, they will just unload all these PDSs and documents onto you. And I've had clients send them through to me and they're just like, what am I even looking at here? It's 100 pages of what is this? So I think couldn't be said more of the importance around that. So I think we'll close out. Billy, anything major for the weekend, or keeping a low profile long weekend?
Heading down to Red Hill tonight
Cool.
with some friends. So yeah, it'll be nice. They got a swimming pool there, so we'll see how we go.
Sweet. Weather looks like it's going to be okay. So hopefully that holds up for you there, mate. But we'll close out, guys. I hope you're getting value out of what we're talking about. We're going to be about a month out from in our new office, where we're going to be in a new podcast studio. So the podcast game is going to go to another level, which we have mentioned before. But I hope you're getting value out of it. 5 stars on Spotify and Apple, if so. And we'll catch you next week on the Winners Playbook. We'll catch you then, Billy.
Good work, Josh.
Disclaimer. The information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book in a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal situation.